Descent of the Demon God. By Hanjo Wiolia. Chapter 217. TRA Alpha Sateliite. Part 1. There was a vast, barren desert. This situation occurred because the land was abandoned and dried up over time. In the past, this area had been filled with trees and livestock. However, contamination became a very serious issue, causing the land to become abandoned and ruined over time. Thud. Thud. Originally, the area was outside the wall, so no one would have even thought of entering this place, but there were footsteps of people there. There were as many as 500 men in protective suits like those worn by the army. Beep. Huh? A man in a suit, carrying a communication equipment bag, seemed shocked by something. In response, the man next to him who had a large sword asked, "What is it?" The tracking signal was blocked. What, in just 30 seconds? Yes, Blade Master. He seemed to be one of the top 6 masters of Blade 6, Guchong Sa. He was comparable to Marayun, the wind god of the Sky Demon Order. Unable to understand, he asked, "Didn't we get a signal that he was entering the enemy camp?" Yes. And it got cut right after 30 seconds of entering that place? Probably. The man in a suit that was using the communication device couldn't give a straight answer, as the evidence meant that their comrade was shortly caught after entering the enemy's lair. Shit. Guchong Sa was confused. Just moments ago, they were happy that the enemy camp had been found. Was the last location saved? Yes, the location has been confirmed about 5 kilometers from here. The place was pinpointed in the middle of the barren desert, where there were stony mountains. For now, send the location information back to headquarters and the others, and we can then advance from here. Huh? Aren't we going to wait? What if they notice our movement? Ah, I see. Listening to Guchong Sa words, the man with the communication device tapped something on the tablet as Guchong Sa raised his hand and shouted, "Advance." Yes. At the moment they were about to begin their march. Swoosh. Creepy. Guchong Sa looked up in shock and saw something that looked like a dot to him in the distance. Seeing the point, he decided to use his senses to examine it. Everyone move out. Why yes. As soon as he gave the new orders, everyone tried to spread out, but the approaching dot continued to fall towards them quickly. Bang! Pop-pop-pack. Something fell right in the middle of, causing a huge shockwave and sending back dozens of Blade clan members. Quack. Ack. Many of the members were thrown back by the impact, while the closest members were cut down by something sharp that stained the place with blood. Even the dust in the air seemed to turn into blood. Cha-chong. The Blade God's 6 martial clan members drew their swords at once. With tense eyes, they looked at what had flown right in the middle of their group. When the bloody dust finally passed, a man behind a red mask was revealed. Mask? Grunt. Guchong Sa ground his teeth at the unpleasant memories that came up from seeing the mask, which reminded him of his fight with Mararian. He had fought with his all, but towards the end of the battle, he lost his left eye because of Marayun. TSK. I hate masked bastards. SRNG. He steadily wielded the huge blade on his back. The gigantic blade, which seemed to be 1.6 meters in length, was a sign of the 6 masters that only he could handle. Originally, he had wanted to fight Wang Xin of the Sky Demon Order, but wasn't given the opportunity to. Who is that monster? The man to Guchong Sa's right was trembling. A weird, unknown feeling of anxiety began to creep into him. Only when he got scared did it mean that things were turning horrible. Guchong Sa shouted, "Strong Blade Unit, move." The unit took the formation known as the Extreme Blade Circle, which was made solely for the sake of dealing with Chen Yuan. It was a large-scale attack that used 300 people and had the power to even dismantle an S-class alpha entity in less than 5 minutes. Yes. As soon as the order fell, the Blade 6 members began to besiege the unknown man in mask with their circle formation. At that time, the man in the mask tried to lift his sword. Hey! To prevent him from doing anything, Guchong Sa jumped in with lightning-like movements and slashed his blade. The force from the blade strike seemed like it could cut down small mountains, but... tack. And no way. Guchong Sa couldn't hide his shock. The man in the red mask had grabbed his giant blade with just 2 fingers, as if he was grabbing a piece of paper. Even the other members of the Blade 6 clan were shocked. The blade of a blade master? With just 2 fingers? They were surprised, but a voice suddenly rang out from the masked man. A lot of you rats have gathered. It'll take some time to sort all of this out, so don't be upset if this old man can't give all of you the same attention. What? The voice behind the mask seemed young, yet he called himself old? Then... Goo! An unbelievable and terrifying energy rose from the masked man, and the surrounding gravity seemed to disappear. Ugh! And my body! Ack! The bodies of the people around began to float up in the air. The sight of hundreds of people rising up made goosebumps rise. The members of the Blade 6 clan tried to raise their internal energy, but nothing happened. Guchong Sa tried to move his caught blade, but... Hack! Huh? As soon as the blade left the fingers of the masked man, Guchong Sa's body rose up. As if he was in a zero-gravity state, Guchong Sa began to float and panicked. Trying to use air blades, but missed. Huh. Swoosh. 3 air blades with blue energy flew for the man, but the outcome was absurd. Weak. Huh? The flying blades turned to the opposite direction and flew for Guchong Sa. Quack. Quack. Blade Master. The blades pierced his chest, abdomen, and thighs at the same time, and since the major parts of his body were pierced, Guchong Sa felt like he was going die. Horrible and painful death. How can such a monster be alive? Lifting so many people up wasn't enough for the man, so he even used air blades to control Guchong Sa. This monster was unbelievable. At that moment, the red-masked man raised his hand and mumbled, "Haha, it has been so long since I've used this, bloodshed." As soon as he finished saying that, something terrible happened. Pop-pop-pack. Dozens of clan members' bodies exploded. As if the explosions had happened inside their bodies, blood splattered everywhere. What is? At the sight of living people exploding and dying, Guchong Sa's eyes lit up with despair, as he knew that this was just the beginning. Pop-pop-pack. The explosions happened as if a wave of fire was consuming the bodies from the bottom up. From a distance, it seemed like purple blood was gushing up, a terrifying sight. And Guchong Sa was no exception to it. Ack! He tried to hold it down, but the blood all over his body vibrated and his eyes swelled and body exploded. Cha-cha-cha. The rain of blood of 400 or so men filled the scene. The man in the red mask had stopped the fight with just internal energy and finally took off the mask once everyone was done. Enjoying the rain of blood. I haven't felt the taste of blood in a long. Hoo. The smiling man was Cho Yu-shin. The appearance of him enjoying the bloody rain made him look like devil of madness. Cho Yu-shin, who was drenched in blood, turned his head and mumbled, "I need to clean up the other rats." Path. His new form soared into the blood-colored sky. Blade 6 hideout in Chengdu. There, an old man with scars all over his body, Huang Hio, and Jiam Songriyong, the chairman looked at each other with still faces. What did they just hear? With a trembling voice, Jiam Songriyong asked a man in a black suit, "Were they annihilated?" "Why yes. How could that? Their huge force consisting of 1,500 people was wiped out. The force had contained 2 Supreme Master level warriors, and 3 of the 6 Masters had reached the Superior Master level. However, they were all killed not long after the message that the enemy camp was found had reached headquarters. Naghio opened his mouth. Any information about the enemy? That. The location information was deleted on the way. What? Deleted? While the information was being uploaded, our system was hacked through the network. We had to destroy the computer to avoid being traced, so we lost the information as well. Crack. Huang Heil's chair handle broke. He thought that he had finally managed to touch the MS group, but instead provided them with an excuse to go after his clan. At this rate, it was only a matter of time before they arrived at his location. Elder. With a worried face, GM Songriyang called for Huang Heil face, whose face hardened as he said, "Contact him." "You mean? Demon God." Bang. Bang. Many people at the bar were drinking noisily. Bai Mak Hien, who was under the vice chairman, blocked one ear as he answered a call. "Yes, this is Bai Mak Hien." Chairman GM. Bai Mak Hien was puzzled by the unexpected call. Although they did exchange information, he never thought the chairman would contact him. Vice chairman? The chairman wanted to speak to Chen Yuan. In response, Bai Mak Hien looked at the sky with a puzzled expression. It might be difficult at the moment. Chen Yuan wasn't in a position to answer the call. Huh? Is he in the middle of something important? The chairman's voice did seem unusual. Bai Mak Hien thought it was strange. Nonetheless, getting hold of Chen Yuan would be difficult. "I am sorry, but I can't say for sure when you can speak to the vice chairman." At that moment, a shout came from the call. "I said it is urgent. Why the hell aren't you even trying to listen?" Bai Mak Hien scratched his head with a troubled expression, looking at the sky. It would have been great if he had the words to explain it. Seeing countless flashes lit up the sky, Bai Mak Hien said, "The vice chairman is now leaving the earth." "What?" In an embarrassed voice, Bai Mak Hien narrowed his head and continued, "Roughly, he seems to have gone past the stratosphere." About 50 kilometers from the sky, there were dozens of explosions. In the midst of the explosions, Bai Mak Hien could see something flying through the sky at a tremendous speed. Swoosh! Papak! Someone pierced through the layers of air and soared high, causing explosions to erupt midair. With a black suit of steel and white particles in his eyes, Chen Yuan heard Nano's voice in one ear as he flew through the sky. Crossed the mid-range point, 55 kilometers. Beep. Beep. Numerous red crosses were highlighted in the nanosuit's field of vision. Yellow rays of light were fired ahead. 17 beams approaching directly. Swoosh! Chen Yuan stretched out his hand. Nano, assist. Panel system operation. Woon. Black, invisible swords scattered around Chen Yuan, controlled by Nano's panel system. Chen Yuan clasped his hand. Pong! Black beams came out from the black invisible swords and flew towards the yellow beams that were flying towards him. Quakwang! As the beams collided, the air was filled with a flash and sound of the explosion, which was a sight to see from the ground. Speed up, Nano. Increasing speed to Mach 13. With that, Chen Yuan's speed increased even more. Papak! A small fox with 9 tails could be seen hanging on the back of the nanosuit. It was none other than the golden Gumiho. She was making a horrible face as her hair was moving back and her mouth and eyes as well at the speed. Too fast. Mach 13 was a tremendous speed that even the Gumiho couldn't handle. "I told you not to stick onto me." At Chen Yuan's words, the Gumiho said, I, too, want to see the universe." Chapter 218. TRA Alpha Satellite. Part 2. Someone was flying in the sky, going above the Earth. The higher he went above, the more frequent the light flashed. There were a lot of hurdles as he flew up. Amid those hurdles, Chen Yuan was flying fast. The conversation from the night before resurfaced in Chen Yuan's mind. If you want to enter the Star Road, you have things that must be done first. What is that? You need to deal with the object controlling the sky in the satellite's orbit. At Duke Joseph's words, Director Huang Miango said, "Tra." It referred to the 3 restricted areas. The worst alpha entity nestled in one of the TRAs was resolved by Chen Yuan. What does that mean? The area above us is included in the restricted area, my lord. The sky? One of those areas restricted was none other than the sky. To be precise, it was the thermosphere one where the satellite could orbit. No, how are we going to get rid of it? We would have to fly higher than 500 kilometers from the Earth, regardless of whether the satellite should be. That would be impossible. The executives considered it impossible as it was already proven once before. Hundreds of satellites have been made by the nations on Earth to eliminate the dangerous entity located on the satellite. Even if a single aircraft attempted to enter the troposphere too, some strange rays would block it. Lord Chen Ma. It is impossible. Even if we try, it would be tough to have a rocket enter that place. This is why humans are like this. Duke Joseph and the commanders laughed at them. Chen Wu-jin, who didn't like the demon's reaction, asked, "Then, can you?" "It will take some risk, but it can be done." "To get into the satellite orbit?" Duke Joseph and the commander seemed confident. They had the technology to handle the gate. How could there be no technology to advance into space? Looking at them being confident, Chen Yuan said, "Then it's simple. Did you say that the entities are 6? Yes. We proceed at once." Duke Joseph, command the commanders and take down the 5 entities. I will remove one. At Chen Yuan's words, the sect members were puzzled. Demons aren't humans, so they could try this. But Chen Yuan was a human and a martial artist. No matter how good he was, could he really touch the satellite orbit? Then, their curiosity was answered. Swoosh! The vision of Chen Yuan's blacking rays turned blurry for a moment due to the use of unification of abilities with the invisible sword containing the sky demon energy. Freezing. The current temperature is -100 C. Chen Yuan was flying at the height of 70 kilometers above the mesosphere 3. It was the coldest part of the atmosphere. It was difficult to get warmth from the Earth and solar heat from the sun since it was so far from the ground. Relieving the freezing. Papak. Heat dissipated from Nano, and the freezing was cleared. Chen Yuan was worried about the golden gumiho hanging outside his suit. Hey, Fox? Fine. Fortunately, she seemed fine. She couldn't get used to the speed of sound, not the temperature. She was a yokai beast, so this must be nothing. It will turn challenging to breathe. Will you be fine? Are you worried about me? Despite not being able to close her eyes right, the fox asked excitedly. To which Chen Yuan just shook his head. Right now, this beast indeed looked like one. TCH. If you can't stand me, go down. He thought she could actually descend to the ground alone. With that, the golden gumiho answered. I can survive 3 days and nights in the deep sea without oxygen. The golden gumiho could accumulate oxygen in her body. However, adapting to the thermosphere might be difficult as soon as the friction index disappears. You are so stubborn. Still, 2 people going to the space like. Seeing how you speak, you must have adapted to the speed. I will increase the speed. At Chen Yuan's words, the golden gumiho was terrified. Wait. Wait. Aha. She tried to tell him to stop, but the speed was already enhanced as Chen Yuan now moved at Mach 414. Of course, it was the nanosuit that helped him. A satellite low-orbit point at an altitude of 100 kilometers. It was a place where the stars could be seen along with the round Earth. It was an optimal point to see the place. The situation at the low-orbit point of the satellite was something that humans couldn't even see. Numerous mechanical fragments were all over the place. These shattered fragments were space debris created by the destruction of hundreds of satellites in space. Stations, something of the past. Goo. Numerous beams of light were fired from the cracks of such things. As if looking down at the situation, spheres were arranged in a row, constantly aiming for something. A massive fortress in the shape of a ship stood in the center of the spot where the light spheres were connected. Earth's name for this was the TRA Alpha Satellite. It was a strategic weapon entity beyond the gate that stole the sky from humans. PSHHH. There was a massive ship that acted as the head. It was some dangerous entity for humans who had never approached it till this point. However, there was a big secret there. Inside that ship were intelligent, four-armed beings twice the size of humans. Bihang mulkiga duuk balajigo isinida. The flying object is getting faster. An entity looking at the monitor shouted. At that, a sixth blue-eyed entity which seemed like the captain said, Ajikto gyocha sakiji mohetago? It wasn't shot down yet? Goo. Gurasamnida. We did. Kook. Durungasan? Shit. How about the others? Gajakdo. Dasu bihang mulchadulgia jiogen janimnida. They are also engaging the other multiple flying objects. They were conversing in a language that didn't belong to Earth. They were beings with technology enough to occupy the space above a planet. What is the situation of each orbit? 5. Pick. Numerous images were displayed on the ship's large monitor. There, satellite Alpha instance ships were seen in orbits of Earth. The ships were using their beams to repel what was coming onto them. At that moment, someone yelled. Demon. The being who suddenly yelled had a different appearance from the others. It was a creature with an exotic appearance but a human in form. The only difference was the unique white wings on the back. The captain asked him. Is that someone you know? Arisha's clan. Ah. At the white-winged one's response, the captain groaned. They knew that these were the nemesis of the white-winged ones who ruled them. The identity of the white-winged ones was the Heaven clan or Talisha's clan. Are they going to intervene? The Heaven clan's member licked their lips and mumbled while looking at the monitor, and then one of the other ones looking at the monitor suddenly yelled. An unidentified object is approaching the satellite orbit. Pick. It was being displayed on the large screen. They could see something black emitting a blue field and flying in at great speed. What is that? The Heaven clan member seemed puzzled. Since Arisha's clan had been their enemy for a very long time, they knew everything about the clan's technology. Yet, they couldn't figure out what this mysterious being was. Are they trying to mess with us? Unlike other satellites, the sight of this single object seemed more like a threat. It felt like someone was messing with them. The Heaven clan member spoke in an unpleasant voice. Captain. Shoot him down quickly. The captain with 6 eyes was flustered. Weren't they also trying to shoot this one down? Even though they were shooting beams, this entity was blocking everything, and it was annoying. Why aren't you answering? Soon we will enter the area where the space junk is gathered. We will take care of it there. The area with space junk. It is the place where the fragments of the artificial satellites were floating. It was a place where vision was obscured. Huh. If something happens to us, Captain, you will be replaced. You understand. At the warning of the Heaven clan member, the captain bit his lip. They were all helpless in front of him. Spawn the spacecraft. Yes. At the command of the captain, the first officer turned on something that looked like a microphone and gave the order. Prepare the craft to move. Wing. Flight runways appeared in response to the shout. They were a quadrupedal machine, a spacecraft, and a combat vehicle that could walk freely in space. Clank. Dozens of spacecraft were hung upside down on each runway in the Hangar 6. One of the monitors shouted, "Spacecraft ready to descend." The captain shouted, "The target is an unidentified aircraft heading over here. Turn the space junk into a grave." Roger. The subordinates shouted in unison. Numerous voices were heard from the monitor. There were more than 1,000 spacecraft. Spacecraft, launch. Pop a pack. The moment the command fell, 1,000 of them attached to the runway moved simultaneously. Swoosh! It was spectacular to see them fly through the junk. The Heaven Clan's members nodded their heads, satisfied with their advance. The captain said in a confident voice, "It's only one object. It won't be able to get past the junk. Bring up the screens of each craft." Yes. Pick. 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 The view of those 1,000 ships was displayed on the ship's large screen. They were sharing the sight with the main ship. They began to move into the debris to raid the entity as they descended. Then, the one monitoring shouted. The flying object reached the 900-kilometer mark. That is fast. It had already reached the space of debris. The captain grabbed the mic looking tensed and ordered. Entered the range. Each craft, be prepared for, dash. The voice came from one of the pilots. "See Captain." Pack. The screen of the craft's field of vision grew bigger. Numerous blue lights were caught on the camera. At first, it looked like 1,000, or maybe 100,000 lights shone. What is? The Heaven Clan member was also shocked. At that time, an uncountable number of blue lights rushed at once. Pop a pack. Rays of blue light swept through the junk. The screams of pilots hiding in the debris could be heard through the speakers. Quack. Ack. On the screen, the view of the floating crafts changed to black. Seeing that, the captain shouted. What was that? Hundreds of thousands of thermal energy emanated from below. At the cry of the monitoring object, the captain thought it was absurd. What does that mean? It was absolutely incomprehensible. It wasn't like ships appeared, but where did the hundreds of thousands of sudden thermal energy come from? Quack quack wang. Due to the explosion, the vision was obscured. As the crafts and satellites exploded, nothing could be seen. Then the Heaven Clan member said to the captain, "Incompetent bastards. It will come to us." The flustered captain tried to make up an excuse. This is the first time we encountered something like this, shut up." The Heaven Clan member got up from the seat. One of the monitoring entities shouted. "See Captain." What is it? The screen. The captain and the Heaven Clan looked at the monitor simultaneously. It wasn't a low-altitude place. It was the altitude above the ship. The Heaven Clan member coughed in anger. What is this? Many meteors were seen falling from a higher altitude from the ship's location. Until recently, there was no such thing. When a meteor shower suddenly fell, it was chaos. Reposition the mobile lasers to the rear. Rear barrier operation. Wing. Weapons arranged to the left and right of the ship were usually made to keep the Earth in check. If they couldn't stop these meteors from ahead, they would also be taken down. The captain, who barely came to his senses, shouted. Fire the laser. Quang. And with a loud roar, the ship shook violently. The captain, who was sitting on the chair, fell ahead. What? The meteor didn't even hit them. This shock was from below. Quack quack wang. Series of explosions right under them. And the floor cracked open, and something appeared inside the cockpit. Bang! The Heaven Clan member looked at the golden gumiho and the man in a black suit. They thought it was an unidentified object, but this was a man. Intruder! Catch him! As the ship shook, the entities inside had fallen down and tried to get up. However, the presence in a black suit lowered its hand. Thud. 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 Quack. Ack. All the entities inside were thrown to the floor without leaving one. Bang. Ugh. The Heaven Clan member tried to get up by holding the counter, but he couldn't hide his shock. What is that? Why is that monster in here? Chapter 219. TRA Alpha Satellite. Part 3. Chen Youwen's expression changed while looking around. He thought they were intelligent life forms, but the bizarre-looking beings looked like aliens. It seemed like they were life forms from another planet. However, among them, there was one that resembled a human. Step. Chen Youwen approached the human-looking being, an entity from the Heaven Clan, whose lower body was embedded in the ship. There were white wings on its back that interested Chen Youwen, who hadn't heard about them. If the Westerners saw them, they could consider this being an angel. Compared to Earth, the oxygen distribution is 80% suitable. It is possible to breathe inside the ship. At Nano's words, Chen Youwen removed his helmet. Shoo! The suit's helmet disassembled into his skin, and the Heaven Clan member couldn't hide his surprise at Chen Youwen's appearance. A human? The being would never even dream that this mysterious monster was a human. How can a human have such power? The being couldn't believe it. Chen Youwen looked down at it and asked, "Are you a member of Talicia's clan?" The winged being's eyes seemed shocked by Chen Youwen's question. The only people who called its clan Talicia's clan were those from Orisha's clan. By this term alone, it was certain that Chen Youwen was related to the demons. What is your relationship with them, human? Chen Youwen just stared at the being and lifted its hand. Whoa! Ack! The body of the Heaven Clan member floated up, as if it was tied to a rope connected to the ceiling. I ask the questions here. What intimidation! One wrong step and he felt like he would die. However, those of the Heaven Clan were known to have an overwhelming pride and sense of superiority, and this being was no different. I have nothing to say to a human. So proud of yourself. How can a trivial human even think of? Tack. Chen Youwen grabbed the arm of the Heaven Clan member, who was perplexed about Chen Youwen's next move. What are you? Crack. Quack. Both arms were torn off, resulting in a resounding scream. Blue blood, instead of red, flowed out from the torn ligaments. Chen Youwen's eyes shone at the blood color. It's different. Chen Youwen thought that the Heaven Clan member's body structure would be similar to that of the demons, but despite having blood with a different color, the body seemed to have flowing blood, which resembled the body structure of humans more than that of the demons. Quiet! The Heaven Clan member shouted as it suffered in pain. There doesn't seem to be much difference between someone so great and a human. Quiet, you bastard! The Heaven Clan member coughed in anger, but couldn't do a single thing as its body was still floating. Chen Youwen asked, "Did someone from Talicia's clan touch the gates of Earth?" While asking, Chen Youwen was actually already convinced that the perpetrator was someone from Talicia's clan. According to Duke Joseph, those from Talicia's clan would often manipulate gates to rule the corresponding planets. Why you think I would answer a human's questions? The prideful being decided to not speak, but based on the being's trembling eyes, it seemed like Chen Youwen's assumption was correct. It has to be. It was evident that Talish's clan had touched the core of the Star Road, but it wasn't clear why they were watching the planet after doing so. Chen Yuan then asked, "If you want to be respected and worshipped so much, then why did you leave the gate open?" He dove right into the main topic. He had to know their real intentions. What the hell is with him? Did Orisha's clan team up with humans? As sensitive topics were being brought up, the Heaven clan members' eyes were complicated. Seeing that the intruder knew so much about the way that the Heaven clan ruled over others, it was clear that the intruder had something to do with demons. I shouldn't hand over any information. The foreign being clenched, believing that information would not be leaked, even at the cost of its own life. Puck. Chen Yuan's fingers dug into its chest. Quack. Let's test how long you decide not to speak. Quack, he kill me. The being shouted with its eyes open. Chen Yuan liked those who stayed silent for the sake of loyalty to their clans, but this situation was an exception. Really? Crack. Chen Yuan's fingers dug further into the chest to see if there was something like a nucleus in the chest like that of the demons, however. Huh? Chen Yuan frowned at what he felt. He could definitely feel beating in the being's chest, but unlike the core of the demons, it was nothing more than an organ that circulated blood. Huh? The being smiled with a contorted face. You don't know us too well. What? Sadly, I can't keep you alive, as you will bring disaster to our clan. The eyes of the being turned evil. A weird malice told him that something was being hidden, and he shouted. Delete Homsen Japik sequence Gadong. Delete ship. Self-destruct sequence activate. As soon as the words were spoken, the cockpit machine began to spark. Crackle. The temperature in the cockpit rose, and the being smiled. Although its clan regarded others as insignificant, they still learned the native language while staying there. The foreign language belonged to the alien-looking beings that were under the Heaven clan's control. The ship they were on flew through space spanning hundreds of millions of light years. When the main energy center that was equipped to operate the warp exploded, a nuclear explosion would follow. The being laughed and said to Chen Yuan, Kwakuku, you are done for. You'll die with me, Shu. Before he could even finish his words, his vision changed. After a moment of confusion, the Heaven clan member couldn't hide their confusion at the clean air, which was different from the characteristic smell that should have come from his order. A blue sky could be seen and many presences around could be felt. Lord! Chen Ma! All the voices called for Chen Yuan, which was when the being realized that it was no longer on the ship. Quang! A white light appeared in the sky as an explosion sounded and a fierce pressure was exerted across the ground. The explosion took place at an altitude of about 100 kilometers, but it still looked powerful. Well, you failed. Chen Yuan said, looking down at the being. Damn it. He could move through space? Suddenly, the eyes of the Heaven clan member were dyed with despair. The self-destruct in which it prepared to give up its life had ended in vain. Now, will you talk about why your clan has stayed silent until now? At Chen Yuan's question, the being licked its lips. It was impossible to divulge any information even though its plan had gone wrong. It had to keep the clan's secret at the risk of its own life. Funny bastard. You will get nothing from me. Crack. A wild light gleamed in the Heaven clan member's eyes. It was trying to kill itself using heavenly power. At that moment, Chen Yuan grabbed its head. In response, the being's eyes fluttered. Unlike the demons, the main part of the Heaven clan members was their head. An immense amount of energy was concentrated at the head to commit suicide, which Chen Yuan noticed. Shoo! A gloomy blue energy then flowed from Chen Yuan's hand. If my prediction is right. Chen Yuan concentrated. What is this? The Heavens member was shocked at the gloomy energy that came from Chen Yuan, and the question was soon answered. JJKKK. Quack. Starting with the head, the color of the being turned white. Even the wings were all frost white, as if it were now a cold corpse. Huh? You killed it? The golden Gumiho, who was on Chen Yuan's shoulders, asked with a puzzled expression, as she first thought that they had just lost the chance to dig up information. It was then. Something hazy like a ghost rose from the cold corpse. Even some of Chen Yuan's subordinates were shocked by the sight. Huh? Spirit? It was a fuzzy-looking but winged spirit that resembled the dead Heaven clan member. Chen Yuan smiled. Success. His prediction was spot on. Unlike the demons, the members of Talicia's clan could be turned to ghosts. Chen Yuan, who dug his hand into the member's body, saw that they were similar to humans in physical structure. Beings with a flowing blood and heart could be turned to ghosts, which is what happened. Shoo! By touching the ghost, its memories could be read. Its memories began to flow into Chen Yuan, who had turned the being into a ghost. They were the memories that the being was thinking of 15 minutes back, including things that Chen Yuan had asked. The memories then showed the being protesting against a blonde human-like being with white wings and a silver crown on his head in a three-dimensional hologram. High Priest, just how long do we wait? The time hasn't come yet. Sigh. The being seemed frustrated. Isn't it better to take the planet into our hands and have those humans become our devotees? Don't think for yourself. The being called the High Priest shouted. Flustered, the being on the ship fell to its knees and pleaded. This foolish priest committed blasphemy. Please punish me. Do not cross the line. Young priest, concentrate on the given task. The High Priest will do the search for the missing one. I understand. When the being said that, the hologram was cut off. Confirming that it was successfully disconnected, the Heaven clan member mumbled in dissatisfaction. It's been 27 years already, looking down on this one planet in this damn space. That bastard just sits in heaven and gives such dumb instructions. Cack. He grunted through his teeth. Full of anger, he approached the window and looked out at the blue earth, thinking. How long do we have to work on finding the sixth Talicia? Does the one who disappeared after obsessing over Arisha really exist on this one small planet? The last memory ended there. Chen Yuan was confused once he had seen all the memories, because the information he heard was unexpected. Their goal wasn't conquest? According to the memories of the being that was now a ghost, it seemed like they were looking for Talicia. In addition, it felt like no one knew if Talicia was alive or dead. For 27 years, they couldn't find anyone and clung to the hope that Talicia was still on Earth. Chen Yuan looked at the ghost. Then, the Heavenly Clan is here to find Talicia, who is supposedly on Earth. The High Priest had said that Talicia was obsessed with Arisha, meaning that he had come to Earth for Chen Yuan's ancestor. Come to think of it, it was said that during the Great War, Talicia and Arisha were both injured. It seemed like the ghost didn't know everything, but at least it was certain that the Heaven Clan's goal wasn't to conquer Earth. At that moment, Bai Maqian ran to him. Chen Ma. What is it? Chen Ma received a call from Mr. Jiam Songriyong of Blade 6. Huh? Why? There seems to be a problem with the MS group. What? Were we told anything about it? At Chen Yuan's words, Bai Maqian hesitated and said. That. Hu Bong answered. I tried to speak through the things Lord put in my head, but you didn't answer. Hu Bong spoke was talking about the nanobombs that had been altered to allow Chub Yuan to communicate with his subordinates. They originally had worked while he was on Earth, but entering the thermosphere was out of the frequency range. Nano explained why. Chen Yuan didn't think such a problem would occur. Still, it didn't take long for the issue to be resolved. Bai Machian was then asked to call back the Blade 6 chairman. Understood. Bai Machian hastily contacted them back, but despite the ring, no one answered the call. He then said, Chun Ma, they aren't answering the call. Expressway to the northeast of Chengdu City. 40 minutes from there was Chengdu Station, where the underground speed train operated. There was a huge crater, as if a bomb had been dropped in the middle, and several damaged buses were lying around. The highway was filled with flames, as if a war was happening. Quack. GM Songriyang had been injured and was coughing up blood. Suddenly, metal structures strong enough to tear down buildings were hurled at him. Cha-cha-cha. At the location he was looking at, Huang Heol was fighting an unknown person who was wearing a red mask. Cha-cha-cha. After constantly clashing with the red-masked man for a few seconds, Huang Heol was thrown back. Papak. Quack. He couldn't maintain his balance and his body staggered, struggling to stand up. Huang Heol raised his stiff face with trembling red eyes. It's that bastard.